is architect Damian Farrell, and each week on the show he does Damian on Design. What do Hill Auditorium, Burton Memorial Tower, and Angel Hall all have in common, besides being on the campus of the U of M here in Ann Arbor?
The architect of Detroit. One of my favorites, Mr. Albert Kahn.
Albert Kahn. And Albert Kahn was born back in 1869 in Prussia. He came to Detroit in 1880. He was just 11 years old at the time.
It's incredible, isn't it?
His father, Joseph, was a rabbi.
Yeah.
Mother, Rosalie, had a talent for the visual arts and music. And as a teenager, Albert Kahn got a job at the architectural firm of Mason and Rice.
Who we talked about last week.
Right.
With
And
Dennis King.
he won a year's scholarship to study abroad in Europe, where he toured with another young architecture student, Henry Bacon, who would later design what? The Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
What history is
Isn't this
there?
incredible? You know, I just keep pushing it. Our state is magnificent when it comes to the arts of all kinds and the environment. And we're leaving, our guest here next to me is just, he's itching to get into this.
Well,
so
our guest
I'm going to let you do the introduction.
knows
today.
exactly what we've been talking about, because he is the Director of Design, Architecture, and Sustainability at Albert Kahn Associates, Inc. Your firm now 118 years old, Alan Cobb?
Thank you, Lucianne and Damian, for having me. Yes, we have a great legacy at Albert Kahn, and Albert really helped shape Detroit and the world as we know it.
Absolutely, yeah.
There's so many representations of his work on the University of Michigan campus, but talk about Detroit, too.
Well, it really, it's almost like Kahn lived the life of 5 different architects with the building types that he perfected.
That's a good description.
He had a great legacy of American industrial architecture that he really took worldwide to Russia,
Right,
to
he
Europe,
did, yeah.
other places. He had a great institutional building portfolio with all of the work at the U of M campus. Actually, the 19 first buildings, Albert did 14 of them at the U of M Central Campus,
incredible.
really shaping the diag in the Central Campus.
Yeah.
His first building was a hospital, the Children's Hospital of Michigan, that was the site of the Detroit Medical Center that has evolved since. But healthcare was always a big part of his portfolio, as well as the clubs of Detroit.
Right. The AC.
The AC, the
Detroit
Detroit
Club,
Golf
yeah.
Club, other
Yeah.
facilities like that. But the residential work that Kahn did is just amazing.
Did he do his house, too?
He did. He designed his house.
That's on Mack Avenue.
It is. He designed houses for really all of the great people, the relationships that shaped Detroit, you know, with the Booth family, the Scripps family, the James Cousins, who was the chief financial officer of Ford Motor Company back when it first was created, and Kahn did some 16 projects for him. After retiring from Ford, he became the mayor of the city of Detroit and a Michigan state senator, and owned the property that's now called Wabeek in Bloomfield Hills,
my
800
goodness.
acres
Yeah.
of
Sure.
Bloomfield Hills.
Yeah. I mean, to me, one of the, the striking ends of the scale with Kahn, the Cranbrook House, his own house, deeply influenced by the English arts and crafts movement, again, not to be confused with the American, but that went on to influence the American arts and crafts movements with the inclusion of all of the handcrafting and so on. And I happen to like that because my house is a contemporary version of it. It's very influenced by English arts and crafts. But then on the other end of it, Rouge Plant.
Right.
So, here you got one, I mean, that's just, we just don't get that anymore. We're all being niched, if you will, in our profession. I mean, here's a guy who, and he didn't finish high school, do I have that right?
He didn't finish college
Didn't finish college, I'm sorry.
or
yeah.
attend a school of architecture.
Right.
Lucianne mentioned his fellowship in Europe.
Yeah.
That was his architectural training with Henry Bacon
Yeah.
as a colleague. And he brought that back to Detroit and used it skillfully. Very hard worker, incredible worker. He put his 7 brothers and sisters through college at U of M. Yes, he did.
Wow.
He was the oldest of 8. And you mentioned the industrial. Of course,
Yeah.
he's known probably far and wide for the industrial work he did, starting in the early 1900s, 1903, with the Packard plant,
Right.
and then the Highland Park plant, the Model T plant for Henry Ford, where he developed the great relationship between James Couzens, who then was the chief financial officer, and didn't believe that you could build a 4 million square foot factory all under one roof with natural light and natural ventilation. We really consider him at the firm one of the first sustainable architects.
Yeah. With
Because
natural ventilation, light, daylight.
He
Yeah.
worried about the place where people work.
Was he doing that work first then in his career?
Well, the first project he did in 1895 was the Children's Hospital of Michigan.
Okay.
So he really started in all market segments.
Right. Yeah.
And it
Cranbrook House was
evolved.
26, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
Cranbrook House was...
No, the school opened in 26.
Yeah, 1907.
Yeah, 06 to 07,
Yeah,
that's right,
yeah.
sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he also pioneered in this area, so the use of precast or concrete, right?
Yeah, well, actually,
for a long span.
one of the first buildings is on the U of M campus, the West Hall project, which I've had the pleasure of helping renovate over the years. That was one of the first uses of reinforced concrete.
Right.
And his brother Julius, who was a structural engineer and graduate of U of M, was one of the early pioneers of reinforced concrete.
Oh, I didn't know about his
Oh,
brother.
wow.
Okay.
We're talking with Alan Cobb, and he is with Kahn, Albert Kahn, this wonderful architectural firm who's been around for more than 100 years, 118 years. What was it like to go in and do work on a building that he had actually designed?
Well, actually, that's part of the reason that I'm at Kahn today and why I went to Kahn. One of the first projects I worked on was the Edsel and Eleanor Ford mansion, Gawker Point and Grosse Pointe, which is just a stunning Cotswold cottage-style house, limestone house. He actually toured the Cotswold region of England with Edsel Ford to come up with the design concepts and brought stone cutters from England to Detroit to do the house. I had the opportunity to do some renovation. The house was being used as a community
Right.
gathering place and was taking quite a bit of wear and tear. And we repaired some things and fixed some things and then expanded the greenhouse and created a meeting center as part of the greenhouse. So definitely the legacy of Kahn is something that brought me to the firm and continues to just be a delight to all of us, being able to work on some of these unbelievable buildings, and especially the adaptive reuse of his industrial and laboratories. Very gratifying to see these buildings reborn, basically, and it's very interesting. Truly, and this has been said by many of the professors and chairs at U of M, Kahn influenced the modern movement. Mies van der Rohe, Walter Gropius were influenced greatly by the architecture in Detroit that was being created in the early 1900s. The Burroughs plant looks a lot like the Fagus shoe factory that started the Bauhaus, the modern movement. They communicate. Actually, Albert Kahn was published widely in Europe and in Germany.
It really speaks to the fact that Detroit really was kind of the center of the U.S. for a long time, right? I think
Makes me wonder what he would
fashion-wise.
think today
I
of
know,
it.
I think he'd be sad, wouldn't it? But on the other hand, probably, I don't know without knowing this as a fact, but I would imagine that the Kahn buildings, there are more of them than anyone else's that have survived. But on the other hand, I'm looking at my statistics. He did over 1,000 projects for Henry Ford.
He was the architect of Henry Ford.
Incredible.
There's no
1,000
question about
projects.
that. Right.
Some of us don't even do 1,000 projects in our lifetime.
And that's my point. He lived the life of 5 architects.
Yeah,
Just the residential portfolio alone is outstanding.